The other day, the BBC's website carried an article entitled "Coronavirus Deadly Masks Claims Debunked." The article had 2 authors with additional reporting by 5 others. Only the BBC would have 7 people writing one fairly short article. Their collective aim was to investigate what they called false and misleading claims about the health risks of face masks being shared on social media. Their first target was the claim that masks deprive your body of oxygen. And surprise, surprise, their verdict was that this was a false claim. They quote someone called Professor Keith Neal, described as an infectious diseases expert, who says that thin paper or cloth masks will not lead to hypoxia. Professor Neal is reported elsewhere to think that masks, or rather face coverings, may need to be worn indoors. And they quote the World Health Organization, where the latest view is that, quotes, "the prolonged use of medical masks when properly worn does not cause carbon dioxide intoxication nor oxygen deficiency." That view, of course, having come from the World Health Organization, may well have changed by the time I finished reading the sentence. And that appears to be it. One professor in the World Health Organization, a body which I don't think I'm alone in thinking is about as reliable on health issues as the members of the Goon Show or the Marx Brothers. The BBC comes to their debunking conclusion without actually quoting any real research. Now, I'm sorry, children at the BBC, but if you're going to debunk something, you need some proper research. What about, for example, the fact that the British government has stated that citizens don't have to wear masks if they have respiratory problems of any kind? Why would they say that if masks didn't make breathing more difficult? Breathing, I should perhaps explain to the BBC, involves breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. It's a natural process. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. And what about the fact that 2 schoolboys who were wearing face masks while running on a track both collapsed and died? It was surmised that this was probably because the strain on their hearts had proved fatal because of the shortage of oxygen. And the picture which appeared on the internet the other day, which showed a lady collapsed in the street with her face mask pulled down from over her mouth and nose. More significantly, what about the study involving 53 surgeons, which showed that the longer a mask was worn, the greater the fall in blood oxygen levels? It was concluded that this may lead to the individual passing out, and it may also affect natural immunity, thereby increasing the risk of infection. It's been reported that an N95 mask can reduce blood oxygenation by as much as 20%, and this can lead to a loss of consciousness. Naturally, this can be dangerous for drivers, for pedestrians, or for people just standing up. The BBC could have done their own research by buying an oximeter and a mask, not scientific particularly, but nevertheless revealing. And then there was a study of 212 mask-wearing healthcare workers, which showed that 1/3 of them developed headaches, with 60% needing painkillers to relieve the headache. Some of the headaches were thought to be caused by an increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the blood or a reduction in the amount of oxygen in their blood. Another study, this time of 159 young health workers, showed that 81% developed headaches after wearing face masks, so much that their work was affected. Sadly, the 7 writers working for the BBC and writing this one article didn't quote any of these. Who wants boring research papers cluttering up a debunking? Never mind, how did the BBC do with their second debunking? This time, their target was the claim that masks can cause carbon dioxide poisoning. Their verdict was that there was no evidence to support this claim. Once again, they relied on good old Professor Neal, who said that carbon dioxide wouldn't be trapped unless you wore a tight-fitting mask, which is, incidentally, the type officially recommended. If your mask's all loose and floppy, then it will be pretty pointless. Not that masks aren't pointless anyway. And that seems to be it. Good old Professor Neal. However, the fact is that anyone who has a breathing problem will find that a mask makes it worse. It makes sense that some of the carbon dioxide which is breathed out with each exhalation is then breathed in because it's trapped. The problem is that the mask wearer may breathe more frequently or more deeply, and if that happens, then someone who has the coronavirus may end up breathing more of the virus into their lungs. If a mask is contaminated because it's been worn for too long, then the risks are even greater. How long's too long? No one knows. No research has been done as far as I know. The BBC's third attempt to debunk a claim concerned the claim that masks harm the immune system. I was not surprised that the BBC concluded that there was no evidence to support this claim. Once again, the BBC's 7 writers / fact-checkers relied on Professor Neil, who said that masks may stop germs getting into your mouth or nose so your immune system doesn't have to kick in, but this doesn't mean it's being suppressed. Really? Well, I hate to disagree with the BBC. No, actually, that's a lie. I hate to disagree with the BBC and their one and only outside expert, but if people wear face masks for long periods of time, months or years, then the absence of contact with the real world may well, in my view, have a harmful effect on immunity. Do face masks prevent us developing immunity to particular diseases? That depends on many factors, mainly the effectiveness of the face mask. But if the face covering, isn't preventing the development of immunity, then it probably isn't worth wearing. Not that it's worth wearing anyway. Also, there's a risk that the accumulation of the virus in the fabric of the mask may increase the amount of the virus being breathed in. This might then defeat the body's immune response and cause an increase in other infections, not just the coronavirus. I'm not alone in being concerned about all this. Dr. Russell Blaylock, a retired neurosurgeon, reported that wearing a face mask can produce a number of problems, varying from headaches to hypercapnia, a condition in which excess carbon dioxide accumulates in the body, and that the problems can include life-threatening complications. Oh, and here's some more evidence. In New Hampshire, a driver passed out and crashed while wearing a face mask for several hours. The police there reported that the driver passed out due to insufficient oxygen intake and excessive carbon dioxide intake. And here's something else. This appeared in the British Medical Journal, but was not quoted by the BBC. Open quotes. Face masks make breathing more difficult for people with COPD. Face masks are in fact intolerable to wear as they worsen their breathlessness. Moreover, a fraction of carbon dioxide previously exhaled is inhaled at each respiratory cycle. Those two phenomena increase breathing frequency and deepness, and hence they increase the amount of inhaled and exhaled air. This may worsen the burden of COVID-19 if infected people wearing masks spread more contaminated air. This may also worsen the clinical condition of infected people if the enhanced breathing pushes the viral load down into their lungs. Close quotes. That was in the British Medical Journal, but the BBC didn't find it. I think I've got more research on my side than the BBC has managed to dig up, with respect to their one professor. Sadly, and with great regret, my conclusion that the BBC is once again wrong and spreading false comfort, which could, in my opinion, be dangerous and potentially deadly. Their researchers, in my view, really need to look for more than one source in future. And children at the BBC, it's always a good idea to look for a few scientific papers and bits of research to back up your opinions. Ringing up one bloke for a quote isn't really doing research. The fact is that sadly not much research has been done into mask wearing, but there is some. And maybe the BBC next plans on doing a little fact-checking. They should get some grown-ups to do it. Please send your complaints to the BBC, which has known financial links with the British government, the European Union, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And if you want real facts about wearing masks, take a look at my 2 videos which are entitled Face Masks Ending the Confusion and Masks Part 2, The Reasons They Want Us to Wear Them. YouTube took down the first of my mask videos, but when I protested that it contained nothing but real facts and that they were taking it down as a political act, they kindly put it back up. Oddly, the BBC's team of researchers didn't look at my videos or my website. What a surprise that was. I was terribly shocked and disappointed. My researches once again show that the BBC is unreliable in my view. If this article that appeared on the BBC website had been written by primary school children for a school newspaper, I'd have given the authors 7 out of 100 for spelling their own names correctly. I am rashly and magnanimously assuming that they manage this. I firmly recommend that if you're British, you avoid giving any money to this terrible and untrustworthy organisation. You mustn't do this illegally, of course. The basic rule, as I understand it, is that you must have a TV licence in the UK if you watch, record or otherwise consume live television. If you don't watch live television, then you don't seem to need a licence. I have no idea what streaming is, but if you start doing it before a programme ends, you need a licence. But if you start streaming after a programme's ended, you don't need a licence. I checked and got that information from an article in a rag called The Guardian, because I thought that The Guardian would not be rotten about the BBC. After all, they both have links with Bill and Melinda. I wish I could stop paying the BBC licence fee myself, but sadly I can't do this because I haven't paid the BBC licence fee for years. Thanks for watching. If you could, it would be very helpful if you put a thumbsy up thing and a comment on at the end of this video, because apparently that helps to make sure the videos are visible. I have no idea why, but I'm told it does. Thanks for watching An Old Man in a Chair, and thanks for your encouragement and support. Please copy and paste the videos on BitChute, whatever else there is. If you'd like to put on a translation, that's fine. If my videos disappear, then go to my website and we'll try and tell you where they might be found. On the website you can always find transcripts of all the videos, including the ones that have been banned. This channel hasn't been monetized, nor has the website. There's no adverts and there's no sponsorship. Please subscribe to the channel, because if you do that, there's a bigger chance that you'll be able to find the videos. If you visit mainstream media, then put a little note on the end of articles that you see on the internet and ask people to come and look at the Vernon Coleman videos on YouTube. Maybe they might learn something different to the stuff that's available in the newspapers. Although it might feel like it at times, please remember, you're not on your own. More and more people are waking up, and we will win this war. Thank you for watching.